so I hit record, is just clap in front of your hand and face. Good. Go ahead, Brett.
Levels are good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll just start off with, who are you?
Chris. Is that all we're going with?
I think we ended up with the last one.
Oh,
Did we get
no.
some sort of like Chris and I'm in recovery kind of thing?
Okay.
So who are you?
My name is Chris. I'm in recovery, 10 years. 10 years clean and sober a few months ago from North Attleboro, Massachusetts.
And if you could you talk a little bit about your childhood?
I had a great childhood. Good parents, good upbringing. Sports was a big part of my childhood. Irish Catholic parents, church strict, very supportive, large family. You know, I look back and I know I was fortunate, but I had a really, really good upbringing. I have an older brother, younger sister. We all got along, and life was good growing up.
So if you could, a lot of people think that the disease of addiction only comes from trauma-filled families or households that are below the poverty line and stuff like that. If you could you just talk a little bit more in depth about your family life, the family dynamic, and things like that?
I had that belief for a long time too, that like a lot of us, that I was different. You know, my family didn't talk much, I can tell you that. Very supportive, but you know, my hero growing up was my father. And my father went to work, came home, did yard work all day. If he got injured, he didn't make a noise. If he was bleeding, he just wrapped it up. And I became him. And 99% of that's really good. The 1% that I wish I knew more about was communicating with people. And you know, in my family, I had a lot going on growing up internally, and how I felt about myself and what was going on in my life. And my insides definitely didn't match my outsides, you know, and you know, it was just the way it was back then. You know, you didn't open up and let people know what was going on.
And sort of that dovetails into the next question. So it's like you elaborated on, sometimes the outside doesn't match the inside. So how did you feel when you were growing up?
Don't judge a book by its cover, right? So on the outside, I'll get to my feelings. On the outside, I was good in sports. I have never talked back to an adult in my life. I did good in school. I've never talked back to a coach, a parent. I didn't get in trouble for the most part. I never missed a practice. On the outside, I looked pretty put together. On the inside, I've always had low self-esteem, low self-worth. I've always felt awkward. I've never felt comfortable. I've always been super anxious, a little anxious right now. Doesn't matter where I am, just came from a funeral, anxious. Just all those feelings that just became normal, and I thought this is what everyone feels, you know, but I was able to channel them into other things, luckily, sports. You know, that's what saved me, at least growing up, you know, and a lot of people that don't have that deal with those feelings, they need to find an outlet.
So did you ever find yourself acting differently than the way you actually felt?
You know what, that's a funny question, because I always isolated. You know, I was always quiet, I think, humble, honest, reliable, hardworking kid that kind of isolated, that didn't really hang out with people. I kind of acted the way I felt to a degree, you know, but people didn't see all the cracks in the shell. They didn't see me. I avoided people in relationships and hanging out with people and getting hurt, and that was me, the quiet kid that didn't say anything, that did his thing and hid, and you didn't see him on the weekends, and kind of a loner pretty much the majority of my life.
So do you remember the first time that you got high?
The first time I got high when I wanted to, see, that's what, I had had surgeries before, and I guess I got high, but I was looking, I had things on my plate, so I didn't so much, and I was at a good place in my mind, I didn't so much notice how it affected me. I can tell you, I remember it like yesterday, the first time I bought them, when all those things I talked about when I was a kid, the insecurities, the depression, the anxiety, the low self-esteem, when they were all like the perfect storm and I bought them, I remember it like it was yesterday. And I can remember my whole life, I can tell you, back to 3rd grade, 2nd grade at Martin School, and the teacher's calling on people, and I got my head down and I'm sweating. My whole life I always thought if I could just feel a certain way, life would be good. And I remember when I bought them, and I didn't have anything to be on time for, I didn't have a schedule, I didn't have anyone relying on me, I found that feeling. And it was over.
So when did you first realize that you had a problem?
It took a while. Because like I said, I was like many other people. I was different. Right? I was different. I graduated college. I got into graduate school. I was very successful at what I did in football. I could play through injury, concussion, broken bones. I didn't miss a practice till I think my 4th year in the NFL, and I was different. So it took me a long time. I thought someone that struggled with addiction was bad parents, bad upbringing, no morals, had a tough childhood, you know, and it took me probably 4 or 5 years to realize I can't do it on my own, and this is more powerful than me.
So how did you see your disease impact your family, your loved ones, friends, relationships?
It definitely crushed everyone around me. And you obviously hear over and over, it's like a tornado coming through the family. And it had probably more of an effect on my family, mother, father, brother, sister. And I had a girlfriend at the time with 2 children that would live with me. It affected their lives as much or more than my own. And my mother's health went with my health. You know, when I was in a facility and getting better, she was getting better. And when I was going down, she was going down. And everyone around you, it affects them different. At a point, my sister just had to stop talking to me. My brother still would come by my house and check on me and try to get me in a place and drive me and yell at me. And my father just didn't talk. You know, and he was worried, and he was talking to people behind the back. And the girls that lived with me, they were in the school systems in town. And they were hearing the rumors. They were living at my house. And they were hearing, oh, this is happening there, and this is happening there. And I know it was tough on them.
So how would you describe, and what was your low point?
My personal low point was December 15, 2008. It wasn't getting arrested or rehab or being sectioned or, you know, all what most people would think would be a jackpot or a low point. It was emotional. I didn't think I could get any lower, and I had come to a point, even though my alcoholism and addiction, I know unfortunately it was like eight years or so, I had hit an emotional rock bottom. And I was in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. I had a nervous breakdown. I was crying. I was in the town I grew up in. Everything had come 360. This thing that doesn't affect college graduates and all people like me, and the upbringing and all these things, the good kid, and had 360'd on me, or 180, whatever you call it. And I didn't think I could do it, you know, and that was my bottom. I couldn't live that way, and I didn't think I could change the way I was living.
So what was your experience in finding recovery?
It was kind of it took me a while to find recovery. I found meetings. I found meetings through court. I found meetings. I always reverted back to me. So I always went to meetings, and I still struggle with it, and I sat in back and I didn't talk to anyone at all. And I went there for 5, 6 months and I left and no one knew. You didn't have to give your last name. No one really knew who I was. And when I really found recovery, it's when I was defeated. It's when I couldn't do it anymore. It's when someone walked in my house that was in recovery and grabbed my hand and saved my life. That's when I changed, when I was willing to accept that, yeah, I can't do this alone. I've tried for 7 years. When I was able to get humble again. And I found it through other people, like a lot of people. I found it by listening to someone and actually going to meetings and not judging the people and hearing the message is hope, and the problem is the message is hope and the promise is freedom, and actually believe in that, but someone else guided me in, and thank God I listened.
So what is your life like now?
Oof, my life's good. It's hectic, it still revolves around recovery. I'm very fortunate. I got everything back. A lot of people don't. I got the family back. The 2 girls that live with me, Ashley and Alexis, that lived through the whole thing, that at points came out and meant it and said, I hope you die, because what I was putting them through, they're back in my life. They're like my daughters, my family's back in my life. I got grandkids, and I got all sorts of people, and I have my own business, and I'm fortunate enough to get to go around and talk about my experience in recovery and in dealing with addiction and the whole thing, and how I've been fortunate to get through it.
So does your disease impact your social life? I guess a lot of people think they're going to get clean, they're going to find recovery, and life's going to be over. So has that been your experience? What have you been able to do? If you can just talk about some of your experiences since you've been in recovery that may have surprised you.
I didn't need a drink when I got married, which I honestly, that was a big thing for me. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I've struggled with interactions with people. Always. I could be in a room with family, 15 people I know, and it was always like, I didn't want to talk. I didn't know how to talk, and it's forced me and made me learn that I'm good. Like, I'm okay with me. I don't need to be the person that I thought I needed to be growing up. I don't need to be the person I thought I was when I was under the influence of a substance, and I'm so grateful for it. I got married, and I've been married, and I've been fortunate that I'm allowed in schools at times to talk, and the girl that lived with me, I walked her down the aisle when she got married. I've had so many blessings since people helped me turn my life around. It's like you said, I thought it was honestly, not to be morbid, death sentence. I really, really did. I couldn't picture it because I wasn't someone that really went out and partied growing up. But if I had to go somewhere and be social, I always needed to have a drink just to calm down. And I don't need to do that anymore. I'm good with myself. I do just fine in public. I do it in spurts. It's a different way of life. I've learned to adjust. I've learned, hey, listen, socially, I got like an hour and a half tops limit. and then I'm hiding somewhere for a little while. I'll come back, you know. But it's made my life a lot better and a lot more rewarding, and I'm a lot happier than I know I would have ever been if I obviously didn't stay on the path I did. But life's good, you know, and I never in a million years could have thought or said that.
So if you could just speak to the stigma that surrounds addiction, and what are your thoughts if someone still believes in the stigma, what would you have to say to them?
Well, it's still there. It can absolutely happen to anyone, and that was my eye-opening thing. When I actually opened my ears, unfortunately I had to go to a lot of rehabs and a lot of places to notice it, but it wasn't what I thought. It wasn't the person living behind the dumpster, the bad family, the broken home. There was doctors, lawyers, didn't matter nationality, you name it. You name the profession and people struggle, and in the background and people struggle. And I'll honestly tell you, I'll tell someone I'm in recovery than before I'll tell them I did anything else in my life. My parents, I don't know if they were okay with that at first. You know, it takes some time, but it's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, and unfortunately, I think I was ashamed at first, you know, and people don't do it on purpose. I didn't, when I was in third grade, want to struggle with addiction or become an alcoholic. I didn't want to struggle with substances. Like, it was never part of my game plan, you know, and that's most people's stories. People just need to know that it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing not to talk about. If your kid's struggling and you know your neighbor's been through it, talk to them. You know, there's places to get help. There's meetings that help people. There's people willing to help. I just think at times it's overwhelming if you don't know where to go. And but like I said, it affects everyone. No one's immune to it.
So if you had a message to someone out there who might be struggling in silence, what would you say?
Obviously, they're not alone. You know, that's what a lot of people do. But I think what I struggled with, I thought it was an overwhelming thing. Like, I thought to turn your life around and get off substances, whether it's alcohol or whatever, it was overwhelming at first when it's really not. There's people willing to help. There's people that want to help. You're not burdening people. People want to go out of their way to help you. You know, there's places to go. You know, some of these facilities, like, yeah, before you go there, you have this thought in your head, they're not bad. You know, but it's worth it. Like, you hear all the time that people talk about how good their lives are now, and my life's second to none. It's really true. It's really true. It's a gift to me, you know, to be able to sit back and look back on all the people that helped me freely along this journey, and there's more people willing to do it. You know, there's help out there for people. People just need to know. Don't be afraid to ask. I always thought weak people. Like, I honestly, like, if you went to, and like, if you were on the team and you went and asked for help, pathetic. I honestly thought that. It's 100% opposite. You know, the strong people ask for help. You know, and I didn't know that, but there's help out there.
Cool. I think that's it.
That was awesome. That was
Perfect.
powerful.
I don't know what I said, but